Hello?
Yo, bro, there's gonna be a sequel to WWF WrestleFest. It's gonna be the bomb.
Hey, what's up, man? Who is this again?
Yo, it's me, it's Chump Hogan. There's gonna be a new sequel to WrestleFest, man.
I had no idea they were making a sequel to WrestleFest, Chump Hogan, or whatever the hell your name is. What can you tell me about it?
That's right, bro. You get to be Johnny Retro. Just too sweet.
Who?
You also get to be the Blue Meanie and Stevie Richards. This game is going to be the bomb.
The Blue Meanie? Are you serious? This has got to be a joke.
Hello?
The 80s and 90s were great times to be a kid. Join me as I dive into the world of movies, music, video games, and toys, and explore what made these decades so great. This is the Big Retro Show.
Hey, what's up, you guys? This is Los from the Big Retro Show, and this is My Unpopular Gaming Opinion. And today on My Unpopular Gaming Opinion, I'm going to be talking to you guys about a game that's billing itself as the official sequel to WWF WrestleFest. Now, if you guys don't know what WWF WrestleFest is, it is a 4-player cabinet that pits you against all of the WWF superstars of yesteryear. Everyone from Hulk Hogan to the Ultimate Warrior to the Big Boss Man and everyone in between. But this arcade cabinet was awesome. I loved this cabinet. A lot of wrestling fans love this cabinet too, and in case you didn't know, I'm a big wrestling fan too. And so to call yourself the official sequel to WrestleFest is a tall order. So let's see exactly how this game stands up to WWF WrestleFest. So wrestling video games have historically been hit or miss among wrestling fans, guys. There have been surefire hits such as the excellent N64 games, including WCW vs. NWO and WrestleMania 2000, the SmackDown series, and the beloved arcade hit, of course, WWF Superstars and WWF WrestleFest. And now it seems that the indie developers Retrosoft Studios are working on a game that is set to be the official sequel to the excellent WrestleFest. With countless gameplay videos published on Retrosoft Studios' YouTube page and other parts of the interwebs, the game looks promising. But is it worth being called the official sequel to WrestleFest? Technos released WrestleFest in the arcades in 1991, and it became an instant classic. One of the reasons that it was such a great game was that you could play along with 4 friends. Another major reason for the game's success was the 2 different modes that you could play after you insert your quarter. WrestleFest had a Battle Royal mode and a Tag Team mode. The Battle Royal mode puts you in control of one of 10 wrestlers to duke it out among each other. The chaos was fast and heavy, and it was a delight seeing all of the wrestlers in the ring. Similarly, the Tag Team mode placed you in control of 2 wrestlers in a series of matches leading up to the title match against the awesome Legion of Doom. Each of the modes had its charms and were enough to hold the interest of wrestling fans who wandered into the arcades. So perhaps one of the biggest draws of this game was the ability to be the great wrestlers of the time. And that was everyone from Hulk Hogan, there was Demolition, the tag team, Axe and Smash. You could also be the Ultimate Warrior, who was also a fan favorite. You could be the Big Boss Man, the $1 Million Man. It was excellent. The roster for this game was so in line with the times, and it made the game exciting, quite frankly. You could not only pick these wrestlers, but you can do their signature moves inside of the game. And the mode that I loved the most about this game was actually the Royal Rumble, because it was just chaos. It was cool seeing all of the wrestlers on screen at the same time and just beating everybody up. And to have 4 players on it, you can play on there with your friends, was even better for the game. And so I think that this WrestleFest game in the arcades was one of the best wrestling games ever created. So the roster for WrestleFest were all established superstars, and it was thrilling for players to play familiar faces in the arcade game. Each of their characters had their signature move, and it was a blast to be able to perform these in either of the two game modes. The game was never ported to home consoles, much to the chagrin of wrestling fans like myself, but this did nothing to diminish the love for the game among us. One criticism that I do have of the game was that it wasn't clear how to do the moves in the game. WrestleFest had the basic buttons, the kick and the punch. The kick was pretty much useless, and the punch pulled double duty as both the punch and the grapple button. After grappling your opponent, you would push the joystick in one of the directions along with the punch to perform a move. If you pushed kick, you would whip the opponent into the ropes. The arcade cabinet had no real special instructions for doing the finishers or the tag team only moves, but I guess this was the sign of the arcade. So this was before you could actually go on Google and find out how to do the moves on the internet, and it was brutal, and that's how we liked it in the arcades. While this game did not receive a port to the home consoles, in 2012 THQ released a remake of the game for iOS devices. THQ would not change the name of the beloved arcade hit, but would introduce a new roster to the game. Each established stars, including The Undertaker, John Cena, Randy Orton, Rey Mysterio, The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Jake Roberts, and Randy Macho Man Savage. In addition to the two modes of the Battle Royal and the Tag Team, the new game also included a standard one-on-one mode, Steel Cage, and Gauntlet match types, along with online multiplayer. The game also had a Road to WrestleMania mode where you could attempt to win a belt by beating a series of opponents. Versions of this game were planned for the Xbox 360, PS3, and the Android, but never materialized. So both of the WrestleFest games that I talked about had epic rosters. These were well-established superstars, all main eventers in their own right, and they were awesome and added a lot to the game. Which brings me over to Retromania Wrestling. I have to admit that Retro Studios' Retromania Wrestling looks good. The play mechanics look spot on to WrestleFest. It seems that the initial roster will have between 14 and 16 wrestlers with an option for more downloadable content if the game receives support according to the developers. The game will even sport some cage matches much like WrestleFest, a fence cage and a classic blue bars cage. Retromania will feature 4 different modes including Story Mode, 10 Pounds of Gold, which is a traditional ladder mode, Retro Rumble, which is same thing as a Royal Rumble, and Versus Mode. As far as match types go, there will be one-on-one matches, tag matches, and cage matches, with the promise of other match types to come. So far the game sounds pretty fun, doesn't it? But aside from the Road Warriors, the main eventers of the whole game, there's really no one on the roster that I would consider a main eventer. Most of them are mid-card wrestlers and jobbers, to be honest with you. So let's talk about that. First, I want to talk about Johnny Retro, who wrestled as John Morrison and Johnny Nitro in the WWE. While Johnny Retro did manage to win the WWE Intercontinental and Tag Team Championships, and had memorable feuds with his former tag team partner The Miz, he was a mid-carder. He was never quite able to main event a WWE pay-per-view. What about Tommy Dreamer? Tommy Dreamer was an ECW standout and one of the most hardcore wrestlers out there. He was famous for his hardcore style of wrestling and eventually found his way to the WWE, where he won ECW Championship and the WWE Hardcore Championship several times. While I did enjoy watching Tommy Dreamer wrestle, especially in the ECW days, especially with all the hardcore things that he used to do, I wouldn't consider him a main eventer. To me, Tommy Dreamer will always be a mid-carder. Next, let's talk about Austin Idol, age 70. That's right, age 70. Who was an old school wrestler from the NWA heyday. I don't know much about him and I can't ever recall seeing him wrestle. Then we have members of the BWO. Get hype everyone, get hype, it's the BWO! The BWO were also known as a Blue World Order. There is Big Stevie Cool, the Blue Meanie, and Hollywood Nova. The BWO were parody wrestlers, with Big Stevie Cool a parody of Big Daddy Cool Diesel, Hollywood Nova being the parody of Hollywood Hogan, and the Blue Meanie, well, being a parody of the bad guy. So the BWO was a complete joke in wrestling, and they were just garbage. And I know I'm sounding like a hater here, but I would never consider the BWO one of these top tier stables. And you know, maybe they weren't trying to be. The rest of the roster is much of the same, with mid-carders mixed in with jobbers, and one indie wrestler who I've never heard about. Now I know all about licensing fees, and I know that it costs thousands of dollars to get these big names in the game, which is going to be difficult, right? I mean, after all, Retrosoft Studios is one of these indie developers, and they're not one of these high-budget, high-power developers out there like EA or anything like that. And so I know that they couldn't get the big talent on there, and I was okay with that. You know, I was okay with that because when they very first started marketing this game, they called it a spiritual successor to WrestleFest, and that was good. That's where I think that the game should have remained, as a spiritual successor to the game. But then they announced that it was a direct sequel to WrestleFest. And here I am thinking, how could it be a direct sequel to WrestleFest when the roster are a bunch of mid-carders and jobbers? I mean, no offense, I know that these guys work hard, but let's face it, these guys, aside from the Road Warriors, they were never main eventers. Around the same time that they announced that they were the sequel to WrestleFest, they also announced that they had acquired the rights to Mania. Mania was a Technos of Japan arcade game that featured fictional wrestlers, including Dynamite Tommy and the Insane Warrior, both of whom are set to make an appearance in Retromania story mode. I mean, this is like I said before, if they would have kept with the spiritual successor tagline that they had for this game, I wouldn't have a problem with it. I think it's a perfectly good tagline for this game. But in order for it to be a true sequel to WrestleFest, they're gonna need to have some star power in it. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the Road Warriors. The Road Warriors are awesome. But I mean, what good is having the Road Warriors on there if you're not gonna have Demolition there too? Or the Powers of Pain, or Hulk Hogan, or anybody else that was of note in the WWF back in the day. I mean, you just have like the Blue Meanie. I mean, seriously, the Blue Meanie? And for these reasons, it is my opinion that Retromania Wrestling is not the official sequel to WWF WrestleFest. And I don't care what they say. Shore up the roster and then call yourself the official sequel. And I know, this is an unpopular gaming opinion. I have seen the marketing on this, and they're using heavy WWF Facebook posts and Twitter posts, and you'll see it in their posts that they're trying to get attention to this game by playing on the nostalgia heartstrings of all of us wrestling fans. And for me, at least, it's not working. I'm smarter than that, and I know that their roster sucks. There's no way around it. And so yes, I know that this is an unpopular gaming opinion, and I know I'm going to get some comments on this video. I would love to know what your opinion of it is. You know, it's like I said, I think the game does look solid, but a sequel to WrestleFest? Nah, bruh. Not today. Anyways, guys, that's going to do it for today for my unpopular gaming opinion. If you have an unpopular gaming opinion, let me know in the comments, and maybe we can have you as a guest on the next My Unpopular Gaming Opinion. Until next one, guys, I will see you on the next big retro show.